right, welcome back. I am Tameshia with the Convene team.
And got Christi Farmer over here.
And as y'all can see, we have a guest today, y'all. We have a guest back for round 2. You're our guest number 2. Thank you for saying yes.
Thank you.
Right?
Thank you for the invite.
Yes. So I want to introduce Miss Drea Diane, and I'm going to use my phone because, baby, when y'all hear about this lady, this dynamic lady, you need to know all the things, and I need to make sure I get it all right. Okay.
All right.
So 23 years, vet in the game. Anytime that you can say you are a decade into something, I already know at that point you've gotten more than your 10,000 hours in of your industry, right? Yes. So over 23 years in the financial industry. She's been in the credit unions. You've been doing some nonprofit things. We're going to get into all of that. From New Orleans.
Yes, born and raised.
Born and raised. Say New Orleans, baby.
New Orleans, baby.
But another thing that really got me too is that not only are you in the financial industry, you've taken it a step further and went and got like your accredited
Certified Financial Counselor.
Certified, not
Yes.
accredited, but certified. So that also speaks volumes as to like your passion for what you have. Also, you're an author.
Yes, the
And-
miseducation of credit.
Yes, love the name by that too, because I mean, a lot of times we're not educated, but then when we are educated, it's not, primarily right, the right things that we need to know.
Right.
So I know I said a little bit about you, but go ahead and, continue to introduce yourself. If I missed anything that we need
Like
to
you
know.
said, born and raised in New Orleans, a city that's very poverty stricken, but like I talked about it, it's rich with love, music, the food, the culture. But I noticed too, growing up, that there was something missing, and what shifted me was to see that there's more in life was Hurricane Katrina. Mm-hmm. We left in 2005, and that was the game changer for me, because if not, I was stuck in my hometown, because this is the norm. Mm-hmm. But I began after I moved, I was working in the credit industry back then in 2005, and then I just kind of found life again. It took some time, after being displaced immediately was such a tragic that happened back in with the storm. I went into the credit industry again, but I was also still in school. Mm-hmm. So I needed something that, because I was very independent, it was just me, my family was all over. Okay. So for me, it was, okay, find the means, find where you can feel like home again. So I moved so much when I was applying for jobs. One of the HR ladies thought I was in the military. Okay. She said, your resume has all these addresses. And I'm like, no, just trying to find home again, that feeling of home. Mm-hmm. So I got into the working in banking still, the credit union. I did credit unions all my life. Okay. So from a teller to branch manager, working in business development. And I never got in the accounting department because my degree's in accounting, my master's, because in those credit union worlds, if you're in the accounting department, you're there forever. You're not going anywhere. So I'm like, okay, well, let me find something else, and so, but I found a love for numbers. Mm-hmm. I was always the one managing the money, loading up the ATM machines. And I just found that too, when I got into the underwriting side.
Loading up the ATM machine.
Oh yeah, I was in charge.
Really?
Like go and pick up the money. Sometimes we were short on a Friday, had to drive to another location with money zip tied in my bag, like 105. It was. Wow. So I was a teller manager at that time, so we were in charge of that. The ATM machine breaks on a payday, we in trouble, right? So but I loved helping people. I always had a heart to serve. So for me, when I got into, when I was doing underwriting at that point, approving loans and looking at people's credit report, it hit me the most in 2017 when I had to deny someone I knew that I haven't seen in 20 years come into the credit union, and that person needed a loan to bury their mom. And we couldn't get it approved. Oh, wow. As hard as we fought.
And they had been a member of the credit union for that long.
They had been a member. I didn't even know they were a member. Again, he was from New Orleans. I'm like, wow. I said, such and such. Like, yeah, I said, wow. So didn't know what his reason was. But just that January, I had buried my dad. So I knew what that burden felt like. And so I was like, okay. And I was just getting burnt out with that credit union world. It was more, we lost the essence of serving the member. So I said, okay. And then a nonprofit popped up, So I said, okay, I get to serve now. I get to go into the communities. And when I saw the need, again, I saw it a while back. I just wasn't in that place, even mentally, because I went through depression after my dad passed. and had to heal. And so I said, you know what? I love helping people. How can I help people? I said, so let me go get certified. But also too, I was broken. So I couldn't do it at that time in 2017. So when the pandemic hit, the world was quiet.
Oh, yeah.
So
Well,
I took time to heal.
Now, what does it mean? Because I heard you say certified, and she talked about being certified. And I feel like in this, and I don't know, maybe I'm just in this world that I'm in as an entrepreneur and being around a lot, everybody can know how to fix people credit now. So
financial literacy, or want to teach you about financial literacy.
You hear me?
Right.
Okay.
So since you've been in the industry for so long, like before the pop-up of we can fix everybody's credit, what does your certificate, like can you explain your certification? Like if I'm a regular person on the street and I'm like, why would I choose you with your certification over this person who clearly got a social media following?
Just took a course.
Yeah, and they can fix my credit. All I gotta do is pay them $500. What makes you different?
Integrity. And also too, once you go through the certification, you're held to a certain standard. Not only you represent yourself, but the company that did certify you, and make sure you get certified with a company, an organization that is accredited as well. So for me, it's funny you said that, and I'm okay with being different, right? Because when the pandemic hit, Clubhouse was a popping thing.
Oh yes.
Yeah.
And I would, as in this field that I am, I would pay to sit in people's classes and courses to see what are you really out here teaching.
Yeah.
And there's some things that I will talk about later, down the line that it may offend some people, but the truth hurts sometimes.
Yeah.
And the
we're
truth
here for that.
helps. I was going to say, it helps in it. I mean,
So for me, I wanted to teach you what they won't teach you. In the book, I'm teaching you how to read a credit report. They won't teach you that because they want you to keep coming back
to them.
The credit gurus, right? And so I've been in the industry like 23 years, finances, numbers, and also to law. I went through the Federal Trade Commission, the FCRA, the Fair Credit Reporting Act. You have laws that protect you as a consumer that all you need to do is read.
And I've seen how thick that book is.
Oh, it's a lot of sections in there. And so one thing about that, and I made this an easy read because this topic
I'm looking at how thick that book is, and then I'm looking at how, and I'm definitely going to get the book. But Christi, you was telling me that it's an easy read. It's like,
and what I liked about it, because I was literally talking to Tameshia about it, and I said what I liked about this book, not just short, because I read, so big books don't hold me back. Like I'll open up a 500,000 page book and be like, let's go for it.
Right.
And so honestly, my first thought was like, oh, it's small. I ain't gonna, this ain't for me. I went from a 520 to I'm in a 770, 70, 80. Like I'm working towards that 800 credit score now. And so I felt like, I know this. But when I opened it up and I read it, I was like, oh, there's a lot. As small as it is, there's a lot of things that even as a person who I fixed my own credit. Like I didn't pay anybody. I took my 200 bump up by myself. Well, with the help of, I did use the Credit Karma app. So I did
gave me that as a recommendation.
I like the Credit Karma app. Like I followed what it said. In everything, there's always bad parts. Like they, of course, have sponsors, and their sponsors are credit cards. Right. And so they're going to offer you these credit card deals.
High interest rates.
But my interest rates weren't high. But when I got them, you just have to be smart, educated about what to do which is anything. Like people will find something and be like, oh, that's horrible. But I'm like, but I use that same thing. It wasn't horrible because I'm not easily guided into just buying things and doing things. Like I'm going to do the research on it. So if you don't do research, you just take what it says, then of course it's going to get you caught up. But back to your book. I learned some things about it that goes to your point of being able to teach people the why behind things, why your credit score, what these numbers mean. And that's what taught me in this book is what the actual numbers mean and the history, because you got to know the history of things to understand why things. And this taught, as small as it is, taught about the history of the numbers and taught about, and I was like, that makes me as a person who like to tell people about their credit score, like you don't have to go pay nobody no $1,000 to get your credit score up. You have to learn how to be responsible. Right. You have to get your mindset right. Now, if you don't want to fix your mindset and you don't want to be responsible, and the easy fix to me is, but then if you pay somebody $1,000 to fix it, if you haven't fixed this, and if you don't understand the process, your score gonna be right back to 520, and you're gonna be paying somebody else another $1,000 to
Yep.
fix it. So that's what I definitely loved about you. A person who I was like, you can't teach me nothing
Right.
about how to bring no credit score up. Like, I know I learned something about this, and I appreciate you being willing to teach people the behind the scene thing. Because if you don't know the history, you'll repeat it. So you can fix your credit score today. And if you don't understand how it works, then you'll be right back in the same situation as a 6-figure earner, as a 7-figure earner. Because that's what I think social media misses on for people, is that you see the big cars and you see the big houses, but if they stop bringing that money tomorrow,
What's behind the scenes?
there is nothing in the savings account. There's nothing in it. I'm sure you've seen it where people who came in with the Audis outside with your impression, because they got the Fendi, they walk in with the Fendi, and they want a loan, and you pull out the credit report, you're like, you can't get this.
When I was working in one of the wealthiest cities in Texas, I lived in Texas, South Lake, Texas. I believe they said like Jonas Brothers lived in that neighborhood and all that. So, but I would see people come in there as entrepreneurs, but credit shot, debt hit the ceiling, you know, and so it's like
which
it's
is
a mindset.
easy to do. Which
Yes.
is easy to do, and I will say, you know, I'm one of those. Like, we're trying to put everything that we can into our business, and so with being miseducated and how to, you know, be able to put ourselves in position to where we're not using our personal credit to, you know, fund this, because again, coming back from, you know, I just hit 40, so coming back from my school of thought is pay everything that I need to pay, fund my business through my own money. You know, credit wasn't even a thing for me. I didn't even think about it like that, because again, I come from, I gotta fund it. Don't go out to these loans for don't go to the banks for loans. Don't go put nothing on your credit card. Like, don't do nothing, none of that. Just, you know, if I can't pay for it, I don't need it. And let me leverage somebody else's money through my credit.
And that's the piece, right? I'm 41. And so I was in that era when we came out of high school, they immediately give you a lot of credit card applications. And so it became law that they can't, because it brought you into,
thank goodness,
it put you into going into college in debt, you know? And so for me, when I wrote the book, one of the things that, even in my coaching aspect, I tell people I don't do credit repair. I do coaching. There's a difference. You know, and I don't do the work for my clients. They have to do the work.
What do you say? How would you define the difference?
One, this is about to be funny. I'm not doing a mass deletion of your credit report. It's just not. Because there are laws around, again, that protect you. And so, but it's work. And a lot of times we don't want to do the work. And so for me, to be honest, I tell it a lot in my story. In 2017, my dad passed. One of those things that went into some debt behind funeral expenses. And so that was another lesson taught for me. And I'm like, I do this all day. I work in the credit union industry. Why did I not have, you know, or even check to say, hey, Dad, you have an insurance policy? But best believe my mom has one, you know, so I made sure. And so, an ego too, I didn't want to do the GoFundMe. And I'm like, no, I'm going to eat this up, you know. But it put me in a dark place, because I was already in a dark place with my dad passing suddenly. And then I went to a financial depression. And so there's a true diagnosis of financial trauma.
I'm sure.
And so I sat in that. And so for 2 years, I gained weight, everything. It was one of those things like, how am I getting denied? And I got denied to rent a home, because I was trying to see at that point, all right, do I want to rent a house or an apartment before I move? I'm like, you know what? You can't be out here in this industry and you're dealing with, I had to realize I was depressed, financial depression. And so I had to deal with what was on my credit report. And like Christi said, she fixed her own. I did my own. I knew the work. I knew the laws. I knew my rights, but I had to pick up the phone, have that conversation with the creditors, and went from like a 580 to like a 740, you know. Built my home, closed on my home last year, built it from the ground up.
Congratulations,
you know, thank
baby.
you know, but it took work, you know. But I realized a lot of people fear this topic. And so that's why I wanted to make it an easy read too.
Let me ask you this. So what's the difference between having no credit and having bad credit?
Are they equal?
Kind of, sort of. But the blessing in having no credit, you can build upon that.
Okay.
So it's called fragile credit, really.
Fragile, okay.
Meaning, you know, because actually your credit report is your adult report card.
Okay.
As an underwriter, we're looking, I can kind of tell you your lifestyle without even really knowing you, you know, but again, it may not, but I always tell people it's unfortunate that those 3 numbers define who we are to other people, because life happens. So having bad credit, there's some work behind it. You know, they're going to, as an underwriter, we're going to sometimes ask why or what, but also too.
Does that really matter though? So like,
depends on if you're going into that bank to get some lending.
Okay.
But if you have a relationship built, so sometimes tenure helps you out as well.
Okay.
Because like, okay, you know what, this did happen to this person. We can lend them this month, but under this stipulation.
Now let me ask you this, because you said the keyword relationship, right? So I one of my business accounts is with a credit union, right? And I just remember back in the day where you used to be able to go into a bank and like actually build that relationship, have conversations. I recently called, a few months ago, I called and I was like, can you give me like a person? Like, can I get a dedicated account manager? And they no longer have that. So how do you build a relationship if they don't even give you one particular person to talk to?
And so that's one of the things when I just said a minute ago, you know, they lost the essence of, and that's why I never did banks.
Okay.
The credit unions, we had that one-on-one. I can walk and say, oh, hey, Mr. Smith. I knew Mr. Smith was coming in every Friday. He was coming. I knew Miss Parker, whoever it was, right? And so when it became about numbers, it completely turned me off because it was more goal setting. Hey, get this loan, get that loan, sell this on the loan, sell that on the loan. And I'm like, but does it really benefit the member? You know, and so for me, integrity, go back to integrity. I want to make sure that I'm giving a person something that's going to benefit them, that's going to really work versus then me getting an incentive at the end of the month because I sold a product.
So are they just telling me that they can't give me an account manager or should
Well,
I?
I've been in the industry 7 years, 6 years now.
Okay.
But I know even some banks have gone to the robot type style.
Everything's online.
Right, everything. So do they really have the manpower? That's the question, you know. And
That's true.
honestly, I don't go into banks anymore. Yeah. I'm online. All things online. So
it used to be where you said you could say somebody's name and they were retiring from the bank. Right. I mean, I've been with the same bank they were BB&T and now they're Truist.
Yeah.
And I've been with them for a long time. When I left Bank of America, I was like, I'll never go back to y'all. That was in college. I was like, I'm done with y'all in college. And then I had people who made way more, you know, they were 6 figures back when I was in my 20s and they weren't being approved from Bank of America. And they were 6 figures with good credit. Like they weren't, you know, the look good on the outside and not like they were very financially conscious, had been with them for a long time and weren't getting approved. And I was like, well, then I ain't got a chance in hell.
Well, that's you know, and that goes to a deeper level of probably why, you know, they talked about that with other banks. With the profiling, you know, so all that plays.
And that really happens.
Oh yeah,
yeah.
absolutely.
I watch documentaries even in the real estate industry. You know.
Oh well, where you have to change your when people come do your what is it called appraisals for your home, and you can have somebody do a stand-in for you and take down pictures because they'll devalue your home just because you are of an ethnic, you are black.
So what should you do when it comes to like loans and stuff? Should you put I'd rather not say what I'm, because I put on there that I'm black all the time.
I mean, you can, but they're gonna know once you come in and sign your paperwork unless you're doing it virtually. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
So it's just one of those things too. Now though, it's all about the numbers and that credit history, that credit profile. And like when you're saying, you know, bad credit, a lot of people, it hurts you because then there are some people that don't deal with it, or they feel that, you know what, because again, we see that 1-800 number pop up.
So what's the best thing to do? Pick up the phone and try and work through it. Okay.
Because the ball is in their court now. You know, they'll give you a chance to pay. And even if you come to a settlement, and the key thing is you ask them, you know what, if we settle, let's do a pay and delete, depending on, so credit is a gamble. It depends on how long you've had that account, because that also plays into the scoring factor of your credit, you know, with FICO. So when you're doing that, it's like, do I really want to do this? But because you don't want that negative now, anything that's on your credit report, it has a bigger impact for 24 months, the first 24 months. Okay. So, you know, the first 24 months is going to really ding your credit score. And typically you can lose, I've seen it to 150 points, a decrease of one late payment.
That's the one reason I did like Credit Karma, in that it would tell you, because I wouldn't have known any better. I'd have just went and paid off some stuff because like I had the money, right? And it would say, well, you'd put in, well, I want to pay 150, and it'd say, well, you pay 150, then your number's gonna drop. And I was like, well, I ain't paying 150. So I would put in different numbers until it showed me like, well, you put in this amount. So it feels like a game in that. It feels like where one of those things where it's like, well, I have the $1,000 to pay it off now, but it'd really be better for my score if I did 150 this month, 150 next month, 150 next month, and it wouldn't affect my score as if I just went and paid the $1,000 right then. So it really is. I feel
it's
like
a gamble.
And
you gotta, and so
like
some
you
people,
know how to play the game.
and if you don't know, if you're not educated on it, it's going to frustrate you. You're gonna be like, you know what, I'm not dealing with this. Or with the financial trauma piece, it reminds you of something. It's a trigger.
Trigger. Yeah,
it's a trigger.
I like that.
So for me, I didn't deal with one of my accounts because it reminded me of my dad's funeral expenses, and I was like, I'm not dealing with it because I had to heal. And so if you don't take the time to heal, that's going to always intimidate you. That's going to always make you, you know what, I'm not dealing with it. And that's going to carry throughout,
So when you say heal, because I'm so all about my healing journey right now, my spiritual journey right now. So what does that look like? Like, was that just dealing with it head on, or like, what did you have to do? Did you journal through it? Did you meditate? Like, what did you do, if you don't mind?
You get tired after a certain point, when you're so used to getting the yes, the approvals, and it was, adverse action, it was, hey, declined or high interest rates. And I knew what my rights were, but I got to the point like, you know what, if I don't come out of this, it's I was like, okay, I need to take the necessary steps, because if I didn't deal with that, then my finances would be affected as well.
Right.
Because why? You're like, yeah, you're not spending, but no, I'm paying more in interest on certain things. And so once your credit score is better, you can go and negotiate your interest rate.
Listen, I'm telling you that good credit score life, everybody need it.
It gives you a level of peace, and people respect you more. It's interesting. People respect you more.
They really do.
I filed bankruptcy in 2015. Was forced to. With a situation dealing with Hurricane Katrina, with FEMA. But it was one of those things that I cried when I did that thing. I'm like, this ain't me. This ain't, I pay everything on time.
With going to the had to, forced to, like, what does that mean?
Forced to. So, Hurricane Katrina, FEMA gave some funding, some federal funding. And so it came to a point, I got a letter in the mail. They were saying that they couldn't have proof that I lived there. So I went through affidavits. I went through all the disputes and everything. And so with me moving so many times, paperwork, documentation, it got to a point they were garnishing people's wages to get their money back.
Oh, wow.
So, yeah. And so it was on the news. It's public information. But my only way to get rid of them in an aspect to settle that was to file bankruptcy.
Gotcha. I'm glad you explained that, because I can just hear people saying that, like, it's not that doesn't sound like an irresponsible thing.
Right.
You see what I mean?
Right.
And I feel like some people, and this is by no means me judging doing bankruptcy. Like, you do what you got to do. But in this situation, because I could see me being like, oh, so she's going to do financial education.
Right.
She out here filing bankruptcy. Like, which, millionaire people with lots of money do it. It's part of the game. It's actually
do way more than we do.
It's actually part of the game.
Definitely.
But just for those who don't have the history to understand, like, this is what.
And look, even if it was filed because of mishandling, my finances, I can't help you where I haven't been.
Right.
So it's through a testimony.
That's the story. Yes.
Yeah. So that's why I said a lot of people, the gurus, have they really been through this process?
Yeah.
Do they really know, or is it something that they learned from a master class and, let me sell this class for $1,500 to $2,000, but are you really benefiting? Because like you said, if I was in that industry to do the credit repair and the quick fix, what am I really teaching them? And also too, if I do it for you, if it happens again, are you going to come pay the person again?
Right. Right.
Everybody I've talked to who's been in that space, they've paid somebody and they're like, I never heard from them again, or I don't know what to do. This is my first time, you teach me how to read a credit report. That's where the answers are. Because you understand it's gibberish to you if you're not in that industry.
And it looked like
just like she said, FCRA. It's the coding. If you don't understand the word and the jargon, it's intimidating.
Well, and your rights though, because there are certain things that on a credit on the credit report and your credit score, certain things that a company shouldn't even be able to. Right. And so that was a big one to me when I even just heard that. I was like, oh, wait a minute. There are certain things that if you actually look
reason behind and knowing, because like the point you said is that someone could have a get it fixed, credit score goes up, and they do one thing and they back down 150 points. And that would really make somebody who worked hard to get that, who paid their last $1,000 or they last 500 or whatever to get it fixed. They did one thing because nobody taught them the process. They just cleared it for them. To me, it's just like when a young kid has a baby, right? And they have no responsibility for it. What do they end up going to do? Have another baby. Because there's no accountability.
Right.
The pressures of it, the responsibility for it. One of the things you put on here at the very beginning and during the introduction is you said you deserve to be financially healed. It takes perseverance. What does it say? It just says perseverance plus purpose equals progress. And I feel like the progress comes from because it takes perseverance to stick through that process of fixing your credit, making the calls, going through. If you do that work, you're less likely to go around and F it up over one mistake or two mistakes. But if all you had to do was hand over $500, $1,000 without any work, then it's like, I'll just mess it up and pay another $1,000. And it may not be that easy the next time.
No. And then too, one of the things I learned even going through the bankruptcy, part, understanding that you're in this thing for 7 to 10 years, that they know. And so my first couple of months, the deal is, looking at you crazy. The respect level is so different. Like you said, those numbers are powerful.
right.
And so when I walked into the dealership, I was like, hey, I'm letting you know, this is my story. This is where I'm at financially. But I knew what my rights were. And so normally I don't put down a down payment when I purchase a car. What I do is I let that, and my sister and I were just talking about that on the way here. What I do is let it hit the books and then apply that amount for that down payment to the principal payment.
Okay, now that was a nugget right there.
There you go. And because all that's doing is going to taxes at the initial purchase if you do a down payment. You can say, I'm not putting down a down payment.
When your credit score right, baby.
But listen, when your credit score right, it's also when you know the game. Because I had just filed bankruptcy. It was dismissed in November of 2015. January 2016, I was buying my truck. And I went in there and I told the guy, hey, I got approved for this amount, this rate, at this rate. Can you beat it? And typically when you go through a bankruptcy, the big lenders are not going to approve you. And I got approved at that time through Wells Fargo.
Okay.
And I put down the most, and I knew it was God because at that time I was saving $100 bills every time I get paid. So I had like $1,300 in my cabinet at home. Why would I do that? The house catch fire, I'm in trouble. So why would I do that? But it was a Friday. I was working at the bank. He said, have you come in today?
Working at the bank and you had money in the closet.
I had money in the safe deposit box at work. I had money it was just like, you know what, let me have this on hand because if it's at work in my safe deposit box, then I can't. So I just put on my savings methods, what I was doing too, because I needed something to be tangible, because I know if it's on my debit card, I'm going to swipe it, And so it's discipline. So I had a dealership call. He was like, hey, can you put down 1,000? Like, yeah. But I knew then I had to ease up because of my bankruptcy situation. I'm like, okay, I'll put down 1,000. And so then he said, we need 300 more. Ironically, I had $1,300 in that cabinet at home.
Oh, wow.
I ran a quick trip, got 2 money orders, went to the dealership that day, and a well-known dealership. It was Mercedes dealership. Okay. And so we had a bankruptcy a month and a half and then drive off. But I knew the game that they played.
Right.
And I'm like, I do this every day. I sell these loans. I close on these loans every day. So you can't, run game on me. So for me, I'm like, if people just knew.
So do you also help and educate entrepreneurs as far as like how to properly get business credit, when to use your business credit versus your personal credit, or do you primarily
personal?
Personal, okay.
Yeah, personal. Right. And credit is something I'm working on, the business side of it, because too, and I also too, I know some people you need funding and loans when you first start, but I'm like you, I don't want to go into debt starting off a business, but also it has to be lucrative, and it has to make sense. But some people too. There are some lenders that look at your personal credit. You're looking for business funding,
right? And
so, but that's something. Though my main focus is personal because I've been doing it all my life.
But I can see where your idea about mindset being. I think I underlined that in here too. How mindset and manifesting is important, and with that thought process of how important mindset is, that if you get your mindset correct and fix your personal credit, it definitely does land over into your business side of things. Like who you are as a person and your responsibility level and how you see money will play an effect on your business. So if you don't fix it personally, that fear, that trauma that you have with finances will play a role in the gambles you are or aren't willing to make on the business side. Because I don't care what nobody says, there's a level of gambling required when you're doing a business. It doesn't matter how many books you read. It doesn't matter how prepared degrees you got.
Right.
There comes a time and decisions in business that a gamble has to be made. You have to be willing to decide how big of a gamble, how much of a risk. And that same game is really the financial game when it comes to your credit score and that. So if you get it on the personal side, it'll be easier to manage on the business side.
Yeah, just understanding what the scoring factors are, what these lenders are looking for, and people sell the list, and who you should get your funding through and get these establish net 30 accounts and all that. So, I've been looking into that, but again too, I know that's my baby.
Yeah.
That personal credit, because that starts here. It's a lot of people, like you said, mentally, and a lot of times we're our own prisoner.
Yeah.
So, for the young people, right, who haven't had the opportunity, hopefully, unless their parents have done them wrong and have started their credit off for them, what would you tell a young person who's 17, 18? I don't know, like when do you start getting credit? 18?
18.
Okay.
Well, you can become authorized user as early as 15, sometimes 14, depend.
Okay, so
if your parents
actually, I think that would I think in my mind be a tip is if you're a parent, go ahead and put your kids down as authorized users.
Yeah, it goes 50-50.
Okay.
Because when you're adding someone as an authorized user, it's beneficial to them as long as you are keeping that account
right
in good standing.
Okay.
Meaning even playing up the 30% rule, and so depending on your budget, I really coach on like the 3% rule. Okay. If you can keep your credit card limit down to 3%,
okay,
never pay it off to zero balance.
Okay.
Because again, credit, they're in business to do what? Make money.
Right.
So keep a small balance, but I tell people too, but back to the kids when we get to that part, add them as an authorized user, but understand that whatever happens on their credit report affects your credit report as well. So
whatever happens on
the parents'
credit report.
So if they go above the limit and their credit score, it affects
just for that particular card or account,
that
right?
card,
Okay.
Yeah. But also too, once you get out of of legal age to get a loan, start off with a savings secure loan. So savings secure loan is when you open up a savings account. Let's say you want to do one for $500.
Okay.
You put the money in your savings. You go to the loan officer and say, hey, I want to do a savings secure loan. The interest rate is very low because you're borrowing against your own money.
Okay.
So that's your collateral.
Interest rate, it should be no interest rate.
You ain't business to make money.
Right. Okay.
All right. So you borrow against that, and so they process a loan for you. And what they do is they hold back then we say pledge. They'll pledge the $500 you gave them in cash. Okay. Meaning, so now your account says balance $500, available $0.
Okay.
All right. So then once you get the $500 from the loan proceeds, I always coach my clients into, if you can save that, save it. So let's say they put it back in your savings account. Now the balance is $1,000, available $500.
Okay.
You make monthly payments. Keep that loan for at least 6 months.
Okay.
Because now what you want to do too is build length of credit history. All right. And so also too, you want to show some on-time payments. So don't be so quick to say, I'm going to hurry and pay this off. When you're paying interest, probably $15 total for the loan. Right. And so that's okay because you're building credit. And so what you want to let the underwriters see and the lenders that, okay, this person's responsible. They can make on-time payments and they can fulfill the promises that they made on this loan. That's what it's all about when you're doing lending. You're making a promise to pay. And so it's like a child, right? If you tell your daughter, hey, I promise I'm going to bring you to Disneyland. And then that day comes and you're like, hey, mommy can't bring you. You broke that trust. So now the next time you tell them, they're like, I don't know. Let me wait till we really get to the airport this time.
Right. We
on the
road.
Right. That's why I don't tell my kids. I just be like, y'all pack up. I need everything in place so it actually happens.
So the lenders see that. And I tell people too, if you have the funding and the finances to do it, stack another one at month 4.
Okay.
So now
go back to the same bank or something else?
Same bank. You go somewhere else, but because you're building credit. So you want to build that relationship too right there. And so then at some point ask for a secure credit card.
Okay.
Right? Because now you're getting revolving
and
account
all of this is still on your own money.
Right. Because the first one is installment account.
Okay.
And that's a set payment, set term, set end date that you pay. Revolving, it's like a revolving door. That's where your credit cards come in. Everything minus the interest is applied right back to you as available, right? And so you want to do that. Start off small and then build upon that, because once they see that on-time payment, you have a good history with them, they're going to start increasing your limits. Then it gets to, how do I manage that? Because we see, oh, that's like, some people heard somebody say yesterday, I thought it was free money.
Well, that's how I'm telling you. I actually shot myself in the foot. Went to college, got my first, what do they call those, refund checks that you get in September. Go down
today.
Go to Savannah, one of the Savannah malls, because I went to Georgia Southern. So get to Savannah Mall, go into Express. I had my own money to pay for the things that I was going to pay for.
But you had that free money.
Yeah, free
But
money.
when I get up there and she was like, hey, would you like to save 20% and on your
Talk
purchase
about that in the book.
and keep your money? And I was like, well, wait a minute. I can keep this $3,000 I still have in my pocket.
That you gotta pay for. Free money.
Well, that's that.
It's not, it was free then.
But I had hopes. I actually, and again, going to a state funded school. That's why I always I preach, unless you're going to get scholarships, go to a state funded school so that you can, you're paying that state tuition and you don't necessarily have to take out all the loans and stuff. But to your point though, I mean, they got me. That candy apple was, save some money, save this 20%, and I'm probably still paying on that Express card because I just did not know how to manage it. And it was only like a $300 credit limit.
So listen.
At what, 27% on interest?
And so I
see if it's still there.
I do studies all the time, and the average credit card interest rate is 20% right now. Average.
20%.
But to 10% on taxes in the stores, right? So you probably saved half the tax, but then when you got the bill for that purchase, you're paying on 27.99% interest rate. That if you don't pay it off in full, it's now carrying over to the next month.
So now every time I go to the register and I go to Macy's or whatever, and they're like, would you like to use your Macy's card, or would you like to apply for a Macy's? And I really want to ask them, why do y'all keep pushing this
That's their
agenda?
job.
I understand that's your job, but it's
and
an
they
agenda.
probably don't
Right.
even understand.
They don't.
The people who are working at a cashier,
It's because
they don't
what they
understand
see
it.
is an incentive.
Right.
And so even with paying off the once you pay it off, for them it's an incentive, right? You get the 27.99, but then they don't tell the back late payment. If your minimum payment is $35, your late fee is $40, $35, right? And so
It's a whole game
they're not
out
in the
there.
business to educate you on how do you win at this. They're in the business to, let me get this person signed up. They don't teach you money management and credit card management when you apply and get approved. It just sounds good. Oh, you approved, and you walk around like, yeah, I got. But how do you manage that once you walk away?
And you saying 3%, so that means if you're approved for $100, you $3. And what is that going to get you these days?
Nothing, right? And so that's how you do that. You pay that, whatever your balance is, multiply that. Again, if your budget doesn't allow you, start off with 30. That's the game right there.
30%, yeah.
Because anything above 30%, the creditors deem you as maxed out on your credit card.
Maxed out at
Maxed out, 30%.
That's a whole
And
game.
so I have a lot of people say, hey, Drea, you're not paying on time, but my credit score isn't moving. You are, but you're paying the minimum.
Yeah.
So,
in person, or you online?
So it depends on what the person asks. So
Okay.
I've done some in person and virtual as well.
Okay.
Because the pandemic, and I launched the business when the pandemic hit. And so it was one of those things that I
It's a beautiful
fought with
moment.
it. Oh, it was so quiet, right? But even writing a book, God had to make me uncomfortable because I was like, okay, shifted some things. I'm like, all right, because if I'm teaching you, people really writing down the notes. I'm like, it needs to be on paper. So it's tangible. You can pick it up. You can say, okay, you know what? I can go back to this and say, okay, I remember Drea said, do this, right? And so it's a new baby for me. First time I self-published, took the time to do all that, the ins and outs, reading and studying how do you self-publish. On the Instagram page, building that, but I want to do more of education.
Okay.
So that's why I said I'm not the credit repair person.
So when you said the education, are you starting like with the younger people to like help them not to, I guess, kind of get on the right foot, or is your heart more to the people who have already kind of been there, damaged it, and need?
More, I want to start with the younger. And so for me, I actually want to take it back home into the school system.
That's what I was hoping
know,
you were going to say.
yeah,
The school systems.
because,
The school systems, I mean, I had not even, I don't even think I took, back then, I know we didn't have any type of finance.
They taught us how to write a
classes.
check.
Yeah.
When we were in school, they taught us how to
They
write a
even do
check.
that?
So they teach me how to pay some bills.
But they don't
They
teach you how to
save.
keep and,
You know,
budget or
they taught me
anything
how
of
to,
that.
no, they don't, that's just not.
We were taking computer classes back in our day.
Right.
We were learning how to use the computer and how to Google search. Well, it wasn't Google search; it was Yahoo.
Yahoo.
Yeah.
But it's definitely something that's needed.
It's
now,
definitely, now
for
I'm
sure.
seeing most states are starting to require that seniors take financial literacy.
Okay,
And they
well,
should.
that's big.
Yeah.
And, but but it's still, I'm sure, like, what does that really look like though? Because you
You have to be relatable to them. Like I did a youth workshop last summer. I was invited to do a youth workshop, and what I do is I have this fake money from Amazon I ordered, and I teach them real life lessons. So I had 2 people come up maybe, and I said, "What do you want to be when you graduate?" And they told me. I said, "Okay, let's look up the average income for this occupation.
Right.
What kind of car do you want?" Like, all right, so I
better
give
get
them a
real
monthly
then.
budget.
Right,
They was
right.
like, "I don't want this car no more." Like, I bet you don't.
I want that Toyota Prius who's gonna save me on gas.
I
saying,
remember
so
doing
now,
that when I was
you know?
an undergrad, and I thought $40,000 was going to be a great amount of money to
Baby,
come out
did
as
we
an
all?
elementary teacher.
Listen.
And I had wrote down my expenses. Like I was very realistic about how much my rent needed to be. Like had researched
Right.
the rent for the area I wanted to stay in and all that. But it left nothing. I was really like, I really thought $40,000 was going to be good. I didn't have no kids.
Yeah.
Factor
I had
in
no
taxes.
responsibility.
And
All
now,
of
and
that,
now
it
we
was
have,
gone.
now everything has increased. Inflation.
Oh yeah, oh yeah. Except
We
for
just
how much
hit,
we made.
right. And
People
so
have
what does
jobs
that
have
do
not
now, right?
increased the pay.
So now that has changed our income bracket.
Mm-hmm.
If you didn't get a raise, at least
For
think
the
like what
quality of
9,
living wages.
yeah, 9% raise, you're in a deficit.
Yeah.
You know, you're now maybe
So what was middle class is no longer
right?
middle
No,
class. It's,
no,
Yeah.
you know, and
Oh, I
so
can tell you because 6 figures does not look like how I used to.
Right, right,
And that's where
right.
living modest.
right, you know what I'm saying? And so it's one of those things again. But if you're not taught how to budget, how to manage, you know, you're in
So
trouble.
those are some of the things that you teach along with.
I do
So
budgeting
outside
courses.
of credit,
I do budgeting, yeah.
Okay.
Budgeting as well, yeah.
Okay.
And also too now I'm studying lately the real piece of trauma, because I've had clients and I can't help them because they're not healed. So if you're not healed, I can talk to you all day long. I can give you a work plan, and I'm not in the business to take your money. You know,
and then you got to think about, because I think about, some of the things, my relationship with money, I need to heal. I know that, right? But I also don't necessarily want to bring somebody else into this world and give them those same fears
Yep.
around money and like those same traumas around money. So I do think it's definitely important for that to be like maybe one of the overarching things, because
Yeah.
you can continue to pass this stuff on down, and it's just like,
and it becomes it's like I said, generation. You don't want to pass it down, and so I can listen to people's conversation. I can tell they fear money.
So what do you, when someone's watching this and they want to reach out, like what is your ideal person to reach out to you for? Like, are you looking for people to book you to teach rooms? How does someone do that? Reach
Reach out to me. So definitely you can go to www.dreadiane.com, DreaDiane.com. Also, on my website, there's a contact form where you can fill out if you want a speaking engagement, or if you want a workshop, we can do it in that platform as well.
Nice.
And so then I have the website, The Financial Lifeline. So it's long, thefinanciallifeline.com.
But
where
that speaks volumes right there. Because you think of Lifeline, I think of that whole like the heart
so
thing.
my
and,
heart,
like, when
yeah,
you're
so that's mine.
flatline- When you flatline, you're
That
like,
is that is my logo. That's my logo.
okay, yeah.
I love it.
It's a heart. So I actually released some hoodies, and I just did a test to see. And again, this is new to me in the business. I have the experience, but I'm like, let me see where I can reach people. And that heart, I sold out probably a good bit of those hoodies. Maybe I have 10 left, and I'm actually post those lately. But the has the logo on the front, but the back says I'm financially healed. I believe in manifestation.
Ooh, I need that.
It's embroidered all the way
Yes.
through.
I like
Yes.
that.
And so I have pins on my clients after I've had testimonials come through. They purchased their home, and one recently, she closed on her home. Her husband passed away a few years ago. And what I loved about it, she brought her daughters to the closing table with her.
Oh yeah. See, and that's how you help heal and not pass down the traumas, because they actually saw what you had to take,
Right.
what you had to do to
Right.
to get
And so they get a pin. It has a heart on it, and it says
Yes.
financially healed on it. And
This
so,
has been great.
I
yeah.
know.
Yeah. I really
Thank
appreciate you
so
coming
thank
here.
you.
I feel educated.
I know. I cannot wait to get the book. That literally, it's probably sitting in my Amazon, my cart
Yeah, because you can buy it
Yes.
on Amazon as well.
Okay. I did see. I think it was on Google as well.
It's on Google and it's
in Barnes and Noble.
Yeah, you got me telling my business. That was September's announcement.
Well,
look, we good. You're good. Right. Listen, because the the print company I went through, asked them not to do it just yet, but it's so much, even in that process of self-publishing, you're like, okay, if they take it down, I got to go through a whole nother process. So, because I wanted to do, and when I ordered those, I shipped myself, signed every book.
Oh, nice.
I wanted to pray over every book that was in my hand. And so now that,
Mine is signed.
Oh, that's dope. That's dope.
yes, now that things are, elevating and, things are changing, I'm going to just let it go through the actual like Barnes and Nobles and Amazon now. Yeah.
Well, the good thing is this show is not coming out until September, so.
Oh, see, perfect time.
Yes.
Well, yeah, that's definitely where I want it though. Yeah. So.
Well, congratulations, because that was big. When I was Googling trying to see where I could find you and find out about you, and I was like, okay,
Yeah,
sis,
my mom called me. You're at Barnes and Nobles. I'm like, yeah.
Yes. Well, again, thank you so much for saying yes to the opportunity. You were our second yes, and I appreciate you. We appreciate
thank you.
you.
Thank you.
We want to make sure that look, y'all already know what we ask you to do this every episode. Like, share, subscribe, to all the things Convene team, right? And then again, welcome, or thank you so much for the opportunity.
Thank you both.
And we shall see you guys next time.
Thank you.